Hello guys. So in this video we will understand the structure of C programming language. So what are the set of rules that we have to follow in order to write C programming language, okay? So initially we start with documentation section. That is, whenever you write code, writing comment is also a good part where you have to write comment so that anyone else who looks up for the program, they understand what program you're writing or what functionality you're going to write, what is this your logic going to do and all. So all those informations are basically given in the documentation section, which are always on the top, implying what the program is. Now later part also you can give the documentation, that is comment. It's not that it should always be in the first part. Next, followed by the first and foremost and important part is preprocessor directive. So what is this preprocessor directive? So we know that in C program, the main function gets executed first. So whenever we execute a program, the main function gets called first. But preprocessor directives are for execution before the main function. So before the main function gets executed, if you want to execute something, so that would be used by your preprocessor directive. So using a preprocessor directive, you can write code that should be executed before your main function. Now, how do you know we are writing a preprocessor directive? It's very important. As you can see, preprocessor directive starts with a hash symbol. So anywhere in C program, if you see a hash symbol, and then you see some keyword, like here we can see include, you can see include and all. So anything that starts with an hash and then followed by some keyword like include and so on, so that is known as your preprocessor directive. Like here, hash include is a preprocessor directive, so this gets executed first before your main function. So what do we do in hash include? It's basically for importing some header files, or you can say some libraries. So there are some functions that we use like printf, scanf, and then some standard input output functions what we use. So all that functions are predefined in this library. So we have to invoke the libraries before calling the main function, or else once the main function gets called before the library, then it might throw an error that is saying that this printf function is not defined and so on. So that is why preprocessor directive is important. Next, we have definition section, where if you have to declare some global variables, then, or you have to declare some functions, you can just do in this part. After that, very much important. So preprocessor is the first and foremost and important thing, must thing. And the second must thing is the main function. That is the entire logic what you write. The main execution starts from your main function. That is the entry point. We say main function is the entry point. So whenever I run an execution, main function is the entry point which it starts executing. And then after that you can have function definition. So once you declare a function, then you can define and give some implementation for your function. So there are a lot of things in this structure, but the foremost and very important and must things are preprocessor directive, main function. Without this two, your program cannot be executed. So here you can see an example. I have a preprocessor directive that is importing standard input output library. So you can see std stands for standard and io stands for input output dot head. So it's a standard input output library or header file which you have to import. And then in main function, I have a simple printf saying hello C language. So these are the basic and foremost important uh, structure that is required in your C program. So how does this get executed? So when I have a program, so here you can see in this case I have same program. I have the standard input output library and have a main function, and I simply have a print function. So if I execute this, you can see I get the output, and the output would be printing hello world, right? So you can see it prints hello world here. So how is this execution happening? What are the steps that are involved in the execution? So we will have a look at that. So to get started with, we have initially a C program. So whatever program you write, it gets stored in .c file. Okay, so .c stands for your C program. .c, you can see here whatever is the file where I'm writing the code, it's saved as .c. After that, using preprocessor directive, like see here we are using preprocessor directive include some library, right? So using that preprocessor directive, your code gets expanded. Say for example, the meaning of this printf function is got. So if you are using some math function and you are using some maths exponential, you are using sine or cos, so those functions are included and the meaning is being expanded. That is, the meaning of the function is being fetched, so your code gets expanded. So once the code get expanded, so your new generated code will have extension simple.i. Now all these steps are hidden and it's been done by compiler. You cannot see it possibly on the high level, but it's happening all under low level. Then this expanded code through a compiler, it gets compiled and gets converted to low level language, that is assembly code. And the new format would be simple.h. So this assembly code then goes through an assembler and gets converted to object code, which will be nothing but set of object codes in hexadecimal values, you can say. So the new extension would be simple.obj. Then finally, using this object code and using linker, you can create your executable code. So you'll get simple.exe. So on creating the simple.exe, you can execute the code. So at final you get the console with output, right? That is nothing but your simple.exe that is been running. So if using loader, it gets executed. So this is the entire flow of your C code. Now all these things happen at low level compiler level, which you cannot see. The only thing you see is you give a .c file and then finally you get this execution file. So this is what is happening at high level, which you can see. Other alls are happening at low level. So this is how your program gets executed in C language.